Hi, everybody. This is my video this week for the Healing Network and for all of you. And this one is on healing. And as I was doing my notes for this, I realized that I might need more than one video for this. So I'm just going to jump in here and begin on the subject of, first of all, our network of grace. And if you're already connected by being part of this network, I want you to just, keep everybody in mind as you listen to this with a prayer in your heart. And if not, if you're listening to this for the first time and you would like to participate in this prayer network, in this network of grace, all you need to do is subscribe. Hit subscribe and you're in, and that's it. This is free. There's no money involved, nothing. This is just something I'm doing because I feel so committed to expanding the power of grace and the power of each other. So today I wanted to talk about grace and healing and its essential connection. And this comes from all my work in teaching and healing for decades now. And my puzzlement with the limitations of the mind, because we really have invested so much of ourselves in thinking that and believing that the mind is so well equipped to heal. It's, the attitudes, and it's a positive attitude, and we poured so much in when the mind body template was kind of emerged onto the scene. We really bought into the role of the mind to accelerate healing, and that the role of beliefs and attitudes and etc. had so much to do with captivating, with assisting in the healing process. And in the beginning, I have to admit, I bought into that too because I didn't know any better. But as the years went by, I thought, wait a minute here, the mind needs as much healing as the body, as everything else. I mean, you can decide that you are going to somehow adapt a positive attitude when you're sick, but then you have all these negative attitudes. And now what, And somehow the mind alone did not seem to be a strong enough vessel to truly take on illness. It just didn't. And eventually, this isn't the place for me to go into it. This is why I love teaching workshops, because I have more time to share stories that are worth sharing. But how I eventually moved into the mystical part of my work, which really redirected me to consider the power of the soul, not in a religious sense, because I don't go there, but that there was a power deeper in us that could outwit the mind, that bypassed the rational mind, that was capable of accessing something deeper in us, that could believe outside the parameters that the mind demands. Proof. The mind demands proof. The mind demands justice. The mind demands fairness. There's a part of us that is capable of considering a much grander theater of life, and that's the soul. What I realized was that the true healing power was more along the lines of the sacred, more like grace, that grace was required. Now, I'm going to hit a pause button and add something here. And that's that what I've also become aware of is that we have become far more complex, far more complex. When we entered into this age of energy, this nuclear age of ourselves, this age of energy consciousness, when we entered into this age of multi-sensory self, we the way one comparison, and I'm not sure this is the best, but it'll do for now. You know how all these we're looking at all the melting of all these glaciers that have been in place for millions of years, and now they're melting. And one of the things that climate change scientists are bringing up is that hidden in this frozen ice that is millions of years old are bacteria has been held, that have been held, frozen and not participating in the consciousness of and in the airwaves of this planet, though it's been there, but it's been frozen and unable to have access. They don't even know what that's going to do, but now it's melting, right? In that same way, think of human consciousness as having been glaciarized for millions of years, and then we enter the nuclear age and we're melting. And all of this potential that's been there all these millions of years is now melting into the collective. But we don't know what that potential is. We have no idea how to see it, measure it, taste it. We have no idea at all. But we are seeing the consequences of that because we are becoming multi-sensory. We know that. We know that we're becoming, look at the things we've become interested in these last decades, that nobody sent out a memo to the collective that said, it's time to become interested in being psychic. It's time to become interested in being intuitive. Nobody. But there was an enormous interest in our intuitive abilities and our psychic abilities and our inner senses, all this interest in turning inward and in going deep within ourselves into our own empowerment. Before then, people were not driven by this idea of empowerment. Today, everybody is driven by this sense of their inner self, this word agency, this word empowerment. Everything is about your inner nature and not your outer. So this transformation has happened over these last decades that has brought us into our interior climate change. I mean, it's hard to conceive that it is, in a sense, all part of one big, huge transformation. But we are the engines of all of this. It's incredibly difficult to conceive of that. And in that same way, it is incredibly difficult to, during my years with Norm, how many times we would be doing, Norm Shealy, we'd be doing workshops together. And I would do readings on people, and every now and again, Norm was fascinated with past lives. I wasn't, but he was. But every now and again, there'd be somebody whose memories, who would exhibit something so rare, so oddly authentic, that you might think, where did you, why would, how would you know this? How would you, that, and so Norm was always fascinated with what influences from a past life come into this life. Now, it never occurred to Norm that maybe it was from a future life. But if he understood timelessness, which is a factor in the new dimension that we are entering, this new dimension that we are moving into. The challenge facing us is, how do we merge the timelessness that we are accessing in the energy, in our energetic intelligence, with the time-based intelligence of of physical data that says, for example, teacup or pen or yesterday, the word yesterday. When we have deeper inner experiences, a near-death experience, for example, you enter into the timelessness. That data is coming into our conscious mind now. That data is coming into conscious focus, creating a phenomenal chaotic challenge of how do we merge timeless data with time-based data. And intuitive reading, a medical intuitive reading, is my capacity to take timeless data that has no connection to time and space and geography, your information that I can access. It makes sense to me because in energy, it's like an email. It's exactly like an email. Email does not pay attention to geography. It doesn't matter how far somebody lives. You hit send and it goes whoosh, whoosh, because it is energetic. That is exactly the way our energetic system works. We have an internet that operates like the internet. I think we created the internet because we have this internet. So we are now working with timeless data coming in all the time. And timeless data means that when it's timeless, from what realm is it? From a realm yet to incarnate or a realm that has incarnated? Down here, we can't comprehend that, but in that realm, it's all simultaneous. And in three instances in my career as a medical intuitive, I picked up stress factors. Let me put it that way. Stress factors that I couldn't find the anchors for them in the lives of these people. I couldn't find them. Like, well, where did this happen? And I couldn't find it anywhere. And then the most incredible thought occurred to me: is this coming from a life yet to be lived? As incredible as that sounds to you, imagine how incredible it was to me. And yet, when I'm in the middle of a medical intuitive reading like that, it wasn't so incredible. It it in that state of consciousness, it's just one more extraordinary level of data, of energetic data. It's ordinary energetic data that does not have a sense of time and space attached to it. Now, my point here is to not go down this rabbit hole with you, but to say we've become more complex. And we haven't even begun to understand the complexity of it. I mean, I'm just beginning. What little I know. But what I know is that our suffering has become more complex because our psychic field is open. That we are now experiencing a wider range of emotional suffering, of psychological suffering. This is why, for example, I'll put together a workshop like the challenges of becoming a conscious person. It is critical for us to understand how this spectrum of consciousness is opening and how it's filtering into us. That what we used to think of as healing as just a disease, like you're healing leukemia, or you're healing cancer, or you're healing but not anymore. We are now entering into this amorphous zone where healing has to be deeply understood. It's not necessarily a physical disease, but the very amorphous territory of our energetic and anatomical system and our psychic energy system and our soul energy system, our sacred anatomy system, that we we might have riders on us. We might have something that we can't identify, that we might be picking up energy that is coming in from all around us and not even realize it. This is why I want to teach this. I believe that I, that we are growing in awareness of this, and which is why here comes this point that grace can go where the mind can't. Grace can go where the mind can't. When you turn to prayer and you say, give me the grace to heal what I cannot even understand, what I cannot even see. I know something is wrong and I can't find it. And I don't know from whence it's coming, but give me that grace. Help me. And let grace do work that the mind cannot go to, that the mind cannot reach. And and there's so much to say about this, because so much of we need to discover this vast realm of who we are, and the great depth of what we do not know about ourselves. We need to understand what our strengths, our potential, our needs, our sensitivities, in a whole new way, in a multi-dimensional way. Far beyond saying, I'm developing sensitivities to wheat and this. Yes, but we are also developing we need to understand that we have developed sensitivities to being lied to, that somehow is thrashing against the integrity of your energy field, your grace field, that somehow, because you are developing greater sensitivities to sense transparency, that something colliding with your intuitive capacity to discern the truth is a real collision for your psychic world. There's so much to teach you on this. I'm telling you, there's so much. But these are just many little messages that I hope will give you some insight and maybe even alert you to why depressions become epidemic and anxieties become epidemic and bipolar and autism, all of this incredible range of suffering in the energetic world, in the energetic dimension of human nature that didn't exist like this before. But it does now, because we're taking up residence in the energetic dimension of ourselves. But we don't yet know what our needs are there, and what is toxic for us there, what is poison for us there, and what we need to maintain our health there. We have a long way to go, because part of it is we don't even acknowledge this part of our anatomical system as if it has needs, genuine needs. So it takes a lot to become a conscious person. The challenges are endless, endless. Which is why, even the one workshop I'm offering in December is not adequate, but it's a beginning. At any rate, I am going to bring us to a prayer. I want you to think of yourself as connected to this incredible network of grace that you cannot see, with all of these people, all of us connected together, all of us allowing grace to go where we cannot go, allowing grace to do the work for us that we cannot do for ourselves, allowing heaven to intervene and take charge of this. I the power of grace is the power of prayer. It doesn't make sense how powerful it is. It really doesn't. But I remember reading with Teresa of Avila, and I may have said this already, but I love this because she was in Avila, and there's a battle going on, and she's, it's swords and cannon, which today is just laughable. But she says in her prayers, "Why don't you just be rid of us, Lord, because of all this fighting, and we obviously can't stop fighting." And then she leans back and she says, "But we have the greatest tool, the greatest weapon. We have prayer." And it's really hard to comprehend the power of prayer. It really is, because you don't see it. You don't see it. And here's that thing about our five senses. We don't get that actually all of this whole world is a product of our invisible power, of our power of our mind, our soul, our choices, our love, our this, our that, all of which then manifests all of this. We simply don't get it. Oh God, if we could only get it. So think of yourself as connected to each other every day. Think, just even if it's 5 minutes, see yourself in the middle of that latitude and longitude, connecting to everybody, and say, let grace pour through me. Let it just flood into me and flood to everybody. Heaven, you know what everyone needs. You know what everyone needs. And what I think prayer does is convert psychic free radicals that are spinning in this universe as toxic energy, and it converts it and directs it through choice, the choice of prayer. It converts it to grace and directs it into positive action. It allows the angels to use it in power, in positive action. This is why I used to wonder as a baby Catholic, why can't you just vacuum this planet and take all the bad guys out of here? I did. In fact, I said in a prayer one time as a kid, I have an idea, God. Why don't you just vacuum all these bad people off the planet? You can use my idea. Good night, right? It took me forever to get, and I poured myself into like listening to and reading the texts of all these apparitions, Fatima, Lourdes, etc. Why? Or did heaven always come with the message, pray? Pray for Russia, pray for the conversion of Russia, pray for this, pray for that, pray for this. Why do you need us to? Why can't you just kick some ass down here, right? But heaven plays by its own rules. It plays by the rules. It plays by the rules. If you see this universe built on grace, built on energy, and it's up to us how we direct energy to flow into matter. And prayer converts energy into grace. And I think it's why everyone who has these near-death experiences always reports how their angels will say, ask for our help. Ask. Don't just stand there. Ask for help. Ask heaven to step in. We can't do anything unless you ask, unless you pray. So I didn't make the rules. I'm just reporting them. So let me close with this. This is a prayer. There comes a moment, Lord, when we must realize how limited we are to help another person, much less heal them. What can we do? We can do what we can, but the rest is up to you. I see this truth more and more, especially when it comes to the suffering people endure within the depths of their own consciousness. We've gone beyond the boundaries of the mind now. We are wading through inner space like astronauts exploring the cosmic landscape of the soul. Who knows what we have stored inside of us? How many secret portals are opening, perhaps to past lives or even to future ones? I know the soul is the timeless part of ourselves, residing within this temporal form. We are time and timelessness, body and spirit, energy and matter. Perhaps, Lord, that timeless dimension of ourselves, that inner sacred terrain, will take centuries for us to comprehend. My observations tell me that human suffering has up-leveled a few notches recently. I'm watching more and more people lost within the vast landscape of the inner self. I see them unlocking reservoirs of darkness they cannot or do not realize they have in order to explore, in order to heal. Is that the role of the sacraments and holy rituals? I'm wondering anew about our need to bless and protect the unseen part of ourselves. We are not even that good at caring for the parts of ourselves that we can see. So I should not be surprised that we have no idea how to attend to the needs of our soul. Lord, grant me the grace of trust in my own inner journey. Help me rely more and more upon my inner guidance and trust that I am hearing you clearly. Hover over me and send grace and love to all connected to my life. Amen. Thank you, everybody.